Can we do it?
Hello, friends and listeners. This is the voice of the galaxy. You have a new episode of Watch Skip Plus. I am Cupcake, also known as Jose. I'm joined by my co-host, Mike the Wildebeest. New episodes for us every Friday, a movie review, a spoiler-free movie review, and then Sunday we give you a full breakdown. That's where you are right now. We are doing a full movie breakdown, spoiler discussion of Project Hail Mary, starring Ryan Gosling, directed by Lord and Miller. Yes, we're going by their duo name, Lord and Miller. So if you've not heard the spoiler-free review, or even if you don't care and just want to jump in and hear all the secrets of the film, that's where we're starting right now. Mike, so Scott said a very interesting thing to me when we left the theater. He said, it's probably going to do really good box office wise, but then he was saying that but I don't know. He's like, it was good, but it wasn't great. Maybe the subsequent weeks may kind of like fall through. In a way, he kind of has a point, right? Mm-hmm. This is not rocket science. I think we all know where this is headed. This is very much kind of like E.T. meets, Gravity, 2001, Sunshine, all of those other sci-fi movies that we referenced, Close Encounters. This is predictable. I mean, I think we can all figure it out, right? What did you think about the script and its twists and turns?
I've never read the book, but it felt very much like a pretty thorough literary adaptation. So
a good novel.
It feels like a novel. You get you get a couple too many endings, maybe. I didn't really go into, because I wasn't bothered by the length, honestly. There were a couple times where I glanced down, I was like, oh, we're only halfway through this. Dang. This is 2 hours and 35 minutes. So just know that, but it doesn't feel like that. It does glide at a very nice pace that I was able to overlook some of those things. And each of those little endings and twists and turns that it took worked for me. Like, it wasn't like, oh, why did we do that? Oh, why did we do that? It worked for me. And I loved the very ending. So
let's talk about the science behind the plot. So the fact of the matter is our sun is dying, and it would appear that these things called astrophages. So these are sort of like black cells that are made of carbon. They are leaving the sun and they are going to Venus, but we don't know why. There's like a whole belt of them, right? And Sandra Hüller,
they're leaving their planet and they're going through the sun to get to Venus.
Yes, that's it. Is that what's happening? Oh, okay. I thought they were coming from the sun.
And they were eating the sun. So they end up, what's happening is they're going to Venus and on their way to mate. And on their way to Venus, they're getting to the sun, which is giving them energy because they're carbon-based life forms. So they're eating the sun as they're going to mate.
I see. And then
like or think of it as the March of the Penguins, basically. The astrophage are going on a march to mate and back, and on their way they're munching on the sun.
So they discover that they're attracted to CO2 because they're carbon based. And after they've done a survey of all of the known galaxy, there is one star that has the astrophage interaction, but it's not dying, and they don't know why. And so the mission that these other astronauts are supposed to go on is to go out there and just find out why, right? But it takes 11 years to get out there. And what we come to find out is that that there's a mishap, and then Gosling has to be on this thing because there were originally 3 other astronauts or whatever. But first of all, did you think that they were going to go into a romantic relationship with him and Sandra Hüller, who plays this very sort of like serious director of this entire science project to basically unite the nations and save the world?
I think we needed their relationship. I don't think it felt romance-ish, but I knew it was never going there. I think we needed that so that we understood her motivations and why things were done the way they were and why he ended up where he was, even though he was only the research partner. He wasn't supposed to go into space. And I like that they drug that mystery on through half the movie. I know you did not like that big reveal as to how he was put on there. You didn't like that, right?
So like we were talking about, as the movie is going along and we're seeing Ryan in space, we do get flashbacks. And by the way, they're in a different aspect ratio. So
Yep.
at least they signal to the audience, hey, this is a flashback. Don't get confused. But about like 70% into the film, or what felt like 75% into the film, he has a flashback. And after we've drawn this relationship out between the two of them, mutual respect, kind of like a kindness kind of thing, and like, oh, look where you've brought us, because he's the one who discovers that the astrophages are basically a cell and all of this. His theory, and the reason why Hewler goes out to meet him, is that water, even though it's like 90% of all living beings, his theory was that water was not necessary for the creation of life. And so for the first, 30, 40 minutes while he's discovering this stuff, what he figures out is they're carbon based, and his theory is completely fucking wrong, right? Which I thought was great. But then
that
she
bad
wants him
theory is the reason why he was brought into it, because he was thinking outside of the box.
Yes. And she wanted people that weren't just going to be yes men and think out of the box. But what we find out later is that after a mishap that basically kills almost the entire research team, so these astrophages, in order to get to the planet, they have to reproduce like millions of them. And this requires like melting metal and this and that. The movie is very, very science-based, and I thought it would lose me, and it didn't. It's all very interesting, right?
It is.
But they have to use the astrophages as fuel. But the problem is the more that you have of them, the more combustible they are.
Yep.
And sure enough, the entire facility explodes at one point. And so they're trying to encourage him to go, and he refuses. And what we find out is there is a betrayal. She basically puts him to sleep, puts him in a coma, and sticks him on the rocket. Now, did I think that was necessary? No, it's such a late in the game development that whether that's there or whether that's not, I don't think it impacts the rest of the story. I don't think it impacts him knowing what the stakes are. It doesn't impact him thinking back on these things and why he's there. I
think it gives more motivation as to why the ending is the way that it is. And he basically, spoiler, we're going to get there. He basically chooses to not go home. So I think we needed that.
Is that what do you think that he chose not to go?
I think that the only person that he had any real connection with, he didn't connect with people really, right? So the only person he connected with was her. And she stabbed him in the back and forced him into this. So he was like, there was no reason for him to come back. And I think that twist kind of, for me, solidified, okay, there's no reason for him to go back. Like, what are you going back to? He's mentioned he doesn't have a family. He was a researcher who's now teaching at a middle school. I mean, come on, he's too smart for that. Yeah. So I did think that it fit like his reasoning and why he made the choice he made, because I think if we would have continued feeling their like emotional pull, we wouldn't have understood his choice in the end. So I think putting that hatchet into their quote unquote romance kind of allowed us as an audience to understand his motivation for staying with Rocky in the end. Which, spoiler, you're in the spoiler part. Yes, he stays with Rocky.
You're in the spoiler portion. So we discover when first of all, he wakes up and he doesn't have a memory, right? Yeah. And I think my biggest issue with the narrative style of this film is that there is so much with the science of it and understanding why he's there and the character development that at some point you have to rush along development. And so the way that the film deals with some of that when there's too much information is you get these montage sequences that appear to be happening within 20 minutes, but I think it's months while he's in space, right? And so in the beginning, when he wakes up and he doesn't have his memory, we're treated to the scene of the, do I have muscles? Do I have a family? Who am I here? What are we researching? And then we get the flashback, and then we come back, and then he's got his memory.
Then he remembers those little bits of the flashback. And it isn't done in a corny way like it sounds. It's done in a very, I know you hated it still, but it was done in a very natural way. This is masterful screenwriting. I mean, I can't get over it enough how well put together the screenplay is. I mean, like that Martial screenplay, it's going to get an Oscar nom.
So the thing is, like you had said, it annoyed me. And honestly, I was on board with that narrative up until the betrayal flashback.
Well, because
Then I was like,
yeah.
come on, But anyway, so that's that. But again, I think if you go back and you look at the film too, when they start to rush stuff, that's when okay, a next chapter is coming. And so what we discover is that when he meets Rocky, by the way, the sight of this like mirrored spacesuit that they create for him was kind of amazing. So Rocky, it turns out, is from a planet called Iridia. He's an alien. And just like Earth, he was sent with a crew to solve the reason, or at least find out why this star, which was called like Tela C or Tuaseti C or something like that, why the star wasn't dying with the interaction with the astrophages. And just like Gosling, he's in a similar situation. His entire crew has died. They don't have enough fuel to do all this kind of like stuff or whatever. Well, actually, he can go back home, but Gosling can't. And then he sort of hides that fact from him, right? Just so that he doesn't make Rocky sad or whatever. And so at the end of the film, they finally figure out how to solve this problem. Now, I don't know. Can you explain it to me? Because I got lost in the science.
Well, it's so easy to get lost in the science because we're really like during all of this, we're seeing this relationship and this friendship and this connection between a faceless rock and our guy, right? Like, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention Arrival. This is a lot like Arrival too, right? Gosh, why did I forget
yeah, totally.
Should have put that
just
in
without
the
sexy Amy
episode.
Adams.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. This is very much in that vibe. For sure.
Yeah. But you know who Rocky kind of reminded me of? Do you remember the robot dog from Battlestar Galactica?
Gosh, that's
it just reminded me of that. But yeah, Rocky's super, super cute. But like, so I guess the astrophages went to this planet.
You gotta think of what they are is that it's a new cells that have been spontaneously created that are eating suns and eating stars, right? So we don't. They were created through this planet. I don't remember the name of that planet, but it was really cool looking, and that's where they.
They're basically like Galactus, like little
kind
Galactus
of like
cells.
Galactus, exactly.
Okay.
So they're these little tiny things that go around, and their whole purpose. Think of, I know I'll go back to the Penguin, March of the Penguins, is they've got to go to this specific planet to mate, and that's why it was at Venus. Is that where they were going to mate? Because of the way that the light. They found that they were
attracted to CO2 on Venus.
Light and CO2. So yes.
Yeah.
So they figured that it would be about a 30 to 40 year process before the sun, our Earth sun, is completely destroyed. And we find the same thing with the Iridian sun is also their star sun is getting destroyed by these creatures as well. And then they basically find this amoeba because the star is called Talos something star, and they call it the talamoeba, which can actually take the astrophage and basically turn it into
neutralize it.
Yeah, neutralize it from eating the sun, basically. So that's what it does.
They called it a predator.
Yes, they call it the predator and they've created little tubes for it to manufacture and kind of reproduce. And now they have the answer. This is how they're going to get rid of it. They're going to kill it, and they've worked together. And that journey, it sounds so weird and corny that they're just trying to figure out how to destroy this alien cell that's eating suns that just kind of started its journey of creation that's going to destroy the galaxy as we know it. So just almost Star Trekian in its concept.
Yeah, but I think so. Then the other big sequence that we get from this is when they discover the predators. They have to basically like capture enough of them so that they can study them, reproduce them, and then like send them back, right? Yep. And so they set up this mechanism where Gosling's ship falls into the orbit of the planet, but it's not a spaceship, so it can't land. Mm-hmm. And so they have to do this calculation about how they go into the orbit, and then they can drop this thing to fish the predator out of like the sky or whatever. Yeah.
So cool.
But then I was like, wait a minute, but is the predator everywhere? Or like, why wouldn't they need to like, whatever? Anyway, so they do fishing basically, and they're going around that, but there's this whole sequence where like they can't escape the gravity pull. It's pretty amazing. And did you notice how like the little thing that was collecting them almost looked like a retrovirus. So if you've ever seen what a retrovirus looks like and it has all those things sticking out of it, like I love that was kind of science-based, I guess.
Yeah.
So then they get this, and then this is the part where then I was like, oh my God, do we have another hour here? So they end up, finding this thing. They high-five themselves that they've done this. He's going to go back. He decides, he's like, I want to see your spaceship before I leave, which is so adorable or whatever. And then he sets back after telling Rocky that essentially like he doesn't have enough fuel. And then Rocky offers to create the fuel through the astrophages so that he can go back home. And there's like all these tears.
Basically.
He has enough. Yeah. So he donates it to him basically. But as he's going back, we realize that, and I hope I explained this well, but so they had contained the predator in this one sort of like shell or whatever,
glass,
right?
plasticky stuff or whatever. Is that what it was?
But somehow it had leached itself out. And then it ended up eating some of the astrophages that he was using for fuel, right? But what he discovered was that because it came out of this canister and was interacting somehow, it was going to eat up all the things that necessitated Rocky living.
Rocky's entire ship was built out of that material. So he's like, oh
the
my gosh.
The Xenon or whatever it was.
It's going to eat his entire ship and he's going to end up dying alone in space. So his choice was to go back home where everyone's aged by years than him and to a lonely existence, or go back and save Rocky. And so he saved Rocky and I cheered. When that scene happened, I was like, yay, yes.
Yes.
And I know that some people were probably like, why? Why not go back to Earth? I did a good job of explaining he didn't have much of a future in Earth. He was not treated well because of his gonzo, ideas. And who wants to go from being a research scientist to a middle school science teacher? Come on.
Right. And didn't have like a partner or a spouse. But again, ding ding, Lord and Miller, Andy Weir, Drew Goddard, you did not need the betrayal for us to see that. The relationship between the two of them is so wonderful and bonding and beautiful that you could have cut that out and we would have had a 2 hour and 10 minute masterpiece.
She used him. She's a government shill. She's the government. She used him, and in her mind, like everybody is expendable. She'll use anyone to get to her. I mean,
listen,
which is a good goal to save the world, right? But that's her singular.
Well, but I think that also dovetails with the fact that, sometimes we as individuals need to make these really tough decisions where, do you save yourself and be selfish, or do you save millions of other people? And so she goes through that. He goes through that. I just don't think you need the betrayal for it. But
everything is a manipulation, from her even singing the freaking David Bowie song. I mean, everything that she does is to manipulate her people to get them to do what it is she needs them to do. That's really,
by the way, I'm going to conclude every meeting I ever have at work or presentation with, and that's enough, and then walk away because in the middle of the song she's like, and that's enough.
I've had enough, but you guys get the point. Bye, see ya.
I joined you. And so when he decides to then go back, I'm like, oh my God, is there going to be this whole thing? And they do kind of rush it or whatever, and then so at the end of the film, and I love this. We see him and we think he's back on Earth, but then he opens the front door and you see all these rock structures that kind of look like Rocky. And then Rocky shows back up.
And then you see that glass structure that they've created that they realize is able to be like a bubble balloon to kind of keep their,
like Rocky's glass suit or whatever.
And that suit he had. And then there's just so much fun when he just shows back up again like a dog to go and play with him. And then it just ends with them sitting on the beach because they would go to talk about Star Trek. They had like a bay where they could go and see visions of Earth. I mean, we kind of pushed through that whole 30 minutes.
And then reproduce it. Yeah, it happens really quick.
I mean, there's a 30-minute section of them coming together to get to know each other that is so important that I can't explain to you any other film where I've learned to love a non-face like creature as much as I loved Rocky. They just, it's insane how well that it was created, written, directed, because at first he's scary and he only has one hole on the backside that he uses to shove food into.
He's like, well, how do you eat? And he's like,
it definitely looks like an anus wrapper. Definitely. Just,
it looks like he's himself when he eats. Okay. So
anus without
exactly.
the wrapper, I guess we could
Maybe
say.
we should have had, maybe we should have had Ryan on.
I think he's himself to eat.
Anyway, oh boy, wow. So but then at the end, and this is yet another reason why sometimes there's so much science that they just have to, the audience just has to kind of go with it, because when he ends up on the planet, he's talking to Rocky. So clearly he's come to understand what all the musical notes mean and what the words are, because they're talking like there's no translation or anything, right? And I was like, well, we skipped a lot right there.
Well, yeah, because they had the translators they used, but I think through enough time, I'm guessing they spent a year or more together, maybe even close to 2.
Yeah.
It was a lot of time that just
they figure that out without having to have the whole, like, what is happening question, and then he's like stamps his leg.
And there was little things that we could tell how long they've been gone, because we see, what's her name, the female character, the Ice Queen, and at the end, and she's much older, right? Gray haired, probably aged 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And she's going off to, because they mentioned how they would have to go out into the middle of the ocean to do this research, and it showed her out on the middle of the ocean going out to finish the project.
Because they said that if the astrophages blew up, it basically would detonate the size of California.
Yep.
And so then she was like, this is why you're on boat. Boom. Or whatever. And he's like, Mwah. But yeah, I don't know. Rocky, such a great creation. Very E.T. It's so good. And then the whole the
scratching to say goodbye. I know. We were doing that afterwards, me and my kid. We were like,
yeah, I know.
So cheesy that we get so emotionally attached to this rock creature. It's so well written. I've never seen anything like this. And I can't even think of a character.
E.T.
I guess, but he had a face, right? We've learned through the
Gizmo. Yeah.
We've learned that the whites of the eyes are what kind of connect us to people, which is why people like dogs so much, because they show the whites of their eyes. And so, E.T., we see the whites of his eyes. And whenever we want to connect with anything, we think of the Bigfoot in, what's the Bigfoot movie with John Lithgow that has the big
Harry
eyes?
and the Hendersons?
Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah. Harry has these big, beautiful, cute eyes. You just feel attachment. But if they were just black and like an actual creature, you'd be scared to death of them. So it's interesting that they were able to create a faceless creature to have such emotion. And that is due to that 30-minute section of them communicating and learning to befriend each other. Kind of reminded me of that bit with Amy Adams in Arrival, where they were communicating with the aliens and teaching all the humans about it. But I loved, again, little pieces of the best of sci-fi all into this wonderful gumbo that just came out spicy in the right ways and delicious and wonderful. And that's what this fucking Project Hail Mary is.
But they give Rocky enough anthropomorphic features too. Yes, he's very spider-like, but he's got these carvings in them that look kind of like the Fifth Element. I was like, me, supreme being. But then when he talks, the top of it goes, little things come up, like
sound waves.
A sound mixer. You can see the sound waves or whatever. Yeah. And then he's got those jewels that are embedded in him or whatever. And
I liked when they were playing with the voices, and they had Meryl Streep, and they got all these other voice actors. I thought that was wonderful.
What did he say? He was like, gosh, she could do everything.
She could do anything.
Wow. That's great. Okay. Anything else to say about this? I mean, and by the way, can I also say this? The costume design is extraordinary. Yeah. So listen, the astronaut suits and the hot, skin tight white suit thing that he's wearing, very great design. But then the t-shirts he wears, there was one that was I had potential, and there's a graph of it going to zero. You know what I mean? There's a band that he blood something or other, and the the leather yellow rain jacket that he's wearing in the research facility. The costume design is really brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
you're all like, dazzled by all this other stuff over there, but like the production design and the costume design is just brilliant.
Yeah, the Earth scenes almost reminded me of like a Wes Anderson film in the way that it was done, not as ornate, but the costuming and design and concepts were very Wes Anderson-y without the ornate particularnness of it. So, and I
but
liked
also
that about
felt
it.
but also felt like The Arrival. So, like I said, I think
felt like The
the
Arrival
key
a lot.
thing about this is that Lord and Miller were able to really just kind of like give these homages without them being straight ripoffs, where somebody like me is like, now you're just doing 2001. Now you're just doing, whatever. So, all right. Well, there you go. It's a hard watch, folks. You've got to do it. And I don't know. Maybe this is our thing. We'll skip the pod roll, except for our podfathers, Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema and Not a Bomb. And then, of course, the OG's Night of the Living podcast. And then maybe our YouTube brothers, Wild Dream Pod. Actually, I think they're called Wild Dream Stream on YouTube. And then Death by DVD. And now for something a little bit different. How about that? Okay. And for the rest of the pod roll, you can either check out our liner notes or check out our spoiler-free episode. What are we reviewing next week? What is going to follow this incredible film? By the way, while you're looking that over, can you believe this? Chuck Norris died.
Yeah.
Nicholas Brendan died. Jamie Blanks, the director of Valentine and Urban Legends, he passed away. This has been a rough week.
Okay, so we've got Forbidden Fruits or They Will Kill You look like the two major releases. There's nothing.
I'm going to throw in my hat for They Will Kill You because it's directed by a Russian gentleman who did a really great film that nobody saw. I mean, they saw overseas, but a lot of domestics didn't. It's called Why Don't You Just Die?
That's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think it's streaming, but like I think Arrow put out an edition of it. It's really, really good. And so that's that director's US debut. Now, I will say it looks a lot like Ready or Not meets Kill Bill with that old boy cinematography with the fight scene, but I don't know. I'm down for it.
I thought you were going to come at me and be like, let's do the mall freaking witches. That is Forbidden Fruit. Looks funny. It's going to go on to
so it does
Shudder.
It does look really good. I don't know.
I mean, the whole fact that it's a comedy horror film where a retail worker secretly leads a witchy femme cult in her mall store basement. Sounds great. Sounds very
like
a new version of Craft, since the Craft remake wasn't very good.
Exactly.
It looks very.
I liked the Craft legacy. You be quiet. That face. All right. And with that, Mike, any parting thoughts?
Just the same as always. Get out there, take your family and friends to the movies, enjoy film.
Yeah. And now, as always, be kind, be vulnerable, be open. What the?
That's where the fart is.
That's where the fist is. Be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. Okay. My memory. What is happening?
Brain
All
farts.
right, see you on the other side. Yeah, exactly. See you on the other side.
See
Bye.
ya.